So I met a dentist who was advertising, who hired an agency to advertise for him. And he told me how his performance was doing, and it was pretty darn bad. So what I have to share with you this video is kind of what you should expect to see when you advertise with someone so that you can kind of understand what you should be getting as a result, and so that you don't end up with the results that this dentist has. And thankfully we're getting on a call in about an hour, and we're gonna see if we can help him out. But all right, when you advertise and when you hire an agency to advertise, there is some level of optimization that has to be done, and a time period where the results you see will have to ramp up before you start seeing more consistent and optimized results. That said, before that period, you should still be seeing results. You should see the results improve over time. And if it's not improving, then you have an issue. And whenever we see results don't improve, there's two things we have to look at. Well, there's technically three things. And at the top, we have goals, right? And then underneath goals is strategy. What are we going to do to achieve that goal? And then at the bottom is tactics, which is the execution of that strategy. So in this case, the goal would be to get new patients. The strategy would be through advertising. And the tactics would be the execution of that advertising. What platforms are we using? What's our budget? How are we bidding? Who are we targeting? What are our keywords? And all those other stuff. And when you don't see results improve, you have to go back and look at the tactics first, right? We don't really want to start and change the goal and say, okay, looks like new patients aren't possible. Let's go and change our goal, right? We should start at the bottom with the tactics, see our execution, is our execution wrong? Then go to strategy. Okay, is maybe advertising not the best choice? And then we go to the goal if we have to. So what I'm advocating for here is that it's typically going to be the execution that you have to look at before you look at changing your strategy, which is advertising. And for long story short, if you want to get leverage to get patients at will, in today's age, advertising is the go-to option. Simply put, the platforms have designed it that way so that you have to pay them to get an advantage. It's unfortunate, but it's true. So the tactical level. If you're not seeing the results improve, there is something wrong at the tactical level. And if you're hiring an agency to do that, then either the agency doesn't want to do the right tactics, or they don't know how to do the right tactics. And I'm not saying you have to quit and work with us or anything, but if you're working with an agency where your results aren't improving, figure out what's going wrong at the tactical level. All right, and so that's what this video is sort of going to cover, but let's talk more about the results. All right, so you do need enough of a budget to get results, and this is not designed by the platforms, but this is just how data works. You need a minimum spend. If you don't reach that minimum spend, what's going to happen is your advertising is going to get data, but that data isn't going to be enough. It's like it's not going to be statistically significant for the algorithm or for the advertiser to understand how to improve upon that. And how advertising works today is that because it's getting more costly, because of the number of people advertising is increasing, that means that the minimum amount budget gets higher and higher, because now we're trying to get a statistically significant sample size. And because the costs are rising, the minimum budget is going to be higher. And so typically what I recommend as a starting budget is right around $2,000 per month. So if you aren't spending $2,000 per month, I mean, and there is some flex, and I'm generalizing here. If you're running a campaign that is higher fee, more niche, then you're going to want a higher budget. If it's something that is typically easier, there's lower barriers of entry, it's cheaper, then it's going to cost you less to get more results. So therefore you can get data faster. So let's say you're doing full mouth rehabilitation. You will need a significant budget for that, But if you're just running ads for like free dental exams, let's say with insurance, then chances are you're going to get a lot of data pretty cheaply. So there's some flex, but a golden rule that I found is right around $2,000. All right, so let's say you spend $2,000. You're going to get the results. And what do the results look like? At first, it might not be much. You might spend $2,000 and get a couple of phone calls and lead to nothing. And this is not to be expected, but this can happen within the first 2 to 3 weeks. All right. And I would say that at the 1 month mark is where you should start seeing, I would say, good results, where you can justify the amount you're spending for the number of patients that are actually coming in, not the number of leads, the actual people who convert from leads. All right. At the 1 month mark, you should be getting healthy amounts of leads for sure. Another question that this doctor had was, I don't know if it's my front desk or I don't know if it's the advertising agency. So I said, okay, how many leads are you getting? How many people are actually like leaving or filling out a form? How many of them are calling? How many of them are booking online? And his budget was $3,600 or $3,800 or so. And that was generating 10 leads. So 10 people calling or 10 people filling out a form. And from those 10 people, he would end up with about 2 patients actually coming in, visiting. And then, of course, from that, you get even less who actually accept treatment or move forward with the doctor. So obviously, it was the number of leads, because 20% of patients showing up from leads is not a bad number. That is it's in the healthy range. And so it was actually not the fault of his front desk, it was the fault of the agency. That for $3,600, you should be getting way more leads. So what should you be looking at? And I think the standard should be somewhere right around $250 per acquisition. So not $250 per lead, but per acquisition. And he's paying, so it goes from advertising budget, obviously, how many leads does that generate? And from those leads, how many of them become patients? Because you could spend your advertising budget to get a whole bunch of leads, but you can also do that by saying, hey, we're giving out $300 bills, just fill out this form. You'll get a lot of leads, but not many of those leads will actually convert into becoming patients. So yes, you have to focus on leads, but the big picture that we're looking for is going to be acquisition. And if you look even further, it's going to be return on investment, but that's a little bit more advanced. All right, so leads, right? He wasn't getting enough leads. So that is in the hands of the agency. I don't think we really need to go into how to improve that, but because there's so many variables, it could be that his landing page is all messed up, that what they're offering isn't clear, that there is no offer at all. Or it could be that they're targeting a really random area, or they're targeting keywords or people who just aren't interested, right? They're not targeting high intent stuff. And another common thing I've seen is that many practitioners, we've been misguided to think that low cost per click is the answer, but it really isn't. I can get you very low cost per click by having you bid, by having you advertise on searches that are meaningless. No one wants to compete with you to show up and advertise to those search terms. So for example, how much money can a dentist make after 1 year out of dental school, right? Let's say we want to advertise your dental services for that search. No other dental office is going to be competing for that unless they're doing a very bad job. So Google will give you the ability to advertise for that search very cheaply because no one else wants to do it, right? So why not make it cheap for you? And so that's how I can lower your CPC, your cost per click, but that's not going to lead to anything, right? Again, the golden rule here is how much acquisition can we get, right? It's not going to lead to much. And all right, so that's one idea. And another is that I think I might have mentioned this before, but all right, so cost per acquisition, what should that look like? And back in the day, I think 200 was a very reasonable and a number we could aspire to. $200 per acquisition. And it still is achievable. Some of our clients are achieving that. But as the trends happen, as more people get onto advertising, as advertising gets more difficult to do because regulations around tracking increase, what happens is that it gets more and more difficult to reach that cost per acquisition. So I think a realistic number today is right around $300 per acquisition. So that guy I'm about to talk to, he is spending about $3,800, getting about 10 leads. So that is about $380 per lead. And now from those leads, he gets two patients coming in the door, which isn't even acquisition technically. And from there, how many of them become active patients? And let's say that's one, right? So his cost per acquisition is right around $3,800, which is about, 13x, like a little less than 13x what he should be paying. I think that's right, yeah. So it's important to look at cost per acquisition as sort of the main metric, because acquisition is what we care about. We care about the number of patients who actually come in. Again, it's more, if you were more advanced, it would be your actual ROI. But I think we can simplify it and look at acquisition costs. So if your acquisition cost is higher than 300, I think there is work you can do to, at the tactical level, to improve that. Now, this number is going to change. Again, with all the trends that we're seeing, the cost of advertising is going to go up. And so the cost per acquisition target, the goal that we should be aspiring for, is also going to increase as well. All right, so that's it for this video. If you're advertising, make sure you understand what you should be expecting. Oh, one last thing is that right around the 3 to 4 month mark is, I think, where you should expect higher levels of optimization and where you should be getting significantly better results. Like, that's when you should be reaching or getting close to that target acquisition cost. And sometimes, because of those trends that I mentioned, like increased regulation and stuff, it might take longer. It costs more to get more data, and the data that we actually get is worse because of regulations. So it's going to take more time. It's going to be a bit more costly these days to get fully optimized. But I think right around the 3 to 4 month period is where you should expect it to happen. It's possible it could take 6 months or so. But that's going to be for more high niche or niche high fee procedures or services if you're targeting that, just because the costs for getting data is significantly higher. And if it's for something like dental exams, new patient specials, it's going to be significantly shorter amount of time that it takes to get to optimization. All right, I think that's it. Let me know if you have any questions about advertising, what kind of results you should be expecting. I'm about to talk to this guy. Again, he's spending around $3,800. He's getting around 10 leads, and from that, about 2 people coming into the office and fewer who are actually becoming patients. And he's been doing this for around 7 months, so he's a bit fed up. I really feel for him, so I'm gonna hop in and see how we can help. And yeah, thanks for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.